Do you think like there'll ever be a time like 2017? Because I remember meeting you and you're in the streets with a flag and you're happy that things were changed in Zimbabwe and you're drinking Hunter's Dry. When we Hunters of Anot Pamar. Like, do you think there'll ever be like a time where people come together and say, yo, we need to do this, like as in at the time during probably the whole, I don't know, this flag movement, whatever civil movements that were present at that time?
Um, I think there will be that time. I don't know if it's gonna come back from our generation. Uh, I'm I'm personally skeptical right now because of the way things turned out, and maybe not from the civil movement, not from like Zimbabwe being the way it is now, but from the way things died out. People got tired, people made decisions, people were assaulted, people were afraid for their lives. And
Vanhu vakadya mari, but continue.
no, I mean, like, no, actually. Because if you say that when vakadya mari, do you want to maybe assess their lives and feel like they've changed? I think they've got more scars about what they gave in for the movement than it is about kujgamari.
I hear you. I hear you. I
Right.
hear you.
So will we see more people with that kind of anger and that kind of drive to want to see change from our generation? I'm not sure. Would I participate? Maybe. But do I think my kids might also have that wave? In this lifetime, I think I'll see it twice. I mean, we've seen currency change 4 times.
All right, all
Nothing
right,
is
all right, all right.
impossible.
Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Bold Exchange. I'm joined by a maverick, Nomaliso Musasiwa, mother, wife, farmer, mathematician, ex-convent Han, Nomaliso Musasiwa. Thank you for coming through. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you doing? You should add Chavez in there. No.
Convent, nice mission. But anyway, let's get to it. We don't want to take time. This has to be short and sweet. So, I remember at a certain time you and your husband. I remember we actually talked about it or whatever. And I remember you guys having a show titled
Sleeping with the enemy.
Sleeping with the Enemy, right?
Yeah.
And I remember also have that show having to be cut short because of how people shared crazy different sentiments. Can you tell me more about what was going through your guys' minds when you said, "Well, let's do Sleeping with the Enemy"?
Okay, so the title was obviously provocative, right? But it was birthed out of the conversations that we were having, just the two of us. We come from he's Shona, I'm Ndebele. There's already that kind of divide, and I think we were heading to being married actually because we were not yet married at the time, and we were just talking about what are the things that make it difficult in a marriage when it comes to family, right? Or when it comes to the difference in how we've been brought up, And then I spoke about the fact that there was a time in my life when the thought of marrying a Shona person and that conversation around us was a no.
It was a heinous crime.
Yeah.
Why would you say that? Because because I was Shona. I'm Shona, born in
Bulawayo.
Blawayo, and I remember I grew up in Kwabalanda, so
Hootie.
I remember I remember in our whole block, like our whole Maraini, they were just like, I think we were only three Shona families in the whole block. I think
Yeah.
that it was us, and then I think it was the Moyos, and the Moyos really didn't want to be known that they were Shona. They were the Moyo that was now trans. No, and then no, there was a Moyo, the Moyos next door, and then the next one's Babeku 60. So the thing that used to happen was that you sometimes it will feel like you are being rebellious if you use Ndebele in the house. You could use Ndebele outside when you're talking to other people. So do you feel like it's this whole let's unite and let's be one people is a sincere and a genuine cry? And do you think that it's actually then the whole divide is actually fueled by Twitter fingers?
Okay, so maybe let's go back to the reason why we had the show and then link it to what you're asking me. So because of lived realities of what would be family at that time when we were having the discussions, I needed to ensure that my future spouse at the time was sensitive to the lived realities of my family, right? We have family members that were directly affected by Guguraundi, right? You are not going to discuss the sentimental around it or whether it was necessary or not. It's like you're not going to discuss with somebody who was violated and hurt that, well, but then there was a reason why it happened, because there's no one who has a reason why their family member will be murdered. There's no one who has a reason why a family member needs to be assaulted in front of your eye and you have to deal with that trauma, right? So ensuring that my future spouse at the time was more sensitive to that was important for me and was also important for him, right? And then because of that conversation, it went down to my university housemate at the time. There was a time where this heated argument about, again, Gugurahundi at the time with my friends, some who were from Bulawayo, and it's like, no, like, I don't get it. You guys from Bulawayo are so aggro. Like, what's going on? You guys are always so mad about certain things, or Shona people not knowing certain things. And we came to a conclusion that it had more to do with ignorance than it was because somebody is trying to make you feel unseen, unheard, or invalidate your lived experience, right? And the more we realize that people didn't know, the then conversation of, okay, let's do sleep with the enemy, or let's talk about Kukurahundi from a perspective of being married from different tribes. That's where it has happened. Well, that's how it has grown. In Ekwabalanda, where I used to live as well, my neighbors were all Shona, from the left, from the right, in front, and the back, right? They were all Shona. So to me, the community wasn't built because they were Shona and I was Ndebele. I played with my neighbors the same way anyone would play with kids from next door, right? We played over the fence, would jump the fence, would play outside. It was always the same thing. We'd all come out looking dusty from Mamchayana, and because we were all speaking Ndebele because of where we lived in the region, it was fine. Right? You and I don't have problems when we speak to each other, whether we're speaking in Ndebele or speaking in Shona. The point is we're communicating. Where it becomes offensive is if somebody's trying to invalidate someone's lived experience or trying to invalidate that I need you to communicate with me in a way that I understand. Because kulabanye abantu who just don't know how to speak in Shona, that's their reality. You may think they understand. I probably lived my whole life, even after playing with the Shona kids that I grew up with. I think the best Shona word that I knew was Andidi, because I used to then say to my neighbor, his name was Kudakwashe, right? And I'll be like, Kuda, your mom is calling you, because the mom like, yeah, Kudakwashe, where you know? I'm like, say Andidi, because I knew that word, right? Because we still wanted to play. And more, because I grew up in the era of Jonathan Moyo and the emphasis on local content only TV, you start to learn the Mambaira Chirimpoto, that's as far as it
Rambai
goes. You know what I
Makashinga,
mean?
but
Well, there was Rambai Makashinga, but I didn't even know what Rambai Makashinga meant.
Right.
Right? It was a song. I could sing it because I understood the syllables, but I didn't actually know what it meant.
No, because you know why this conversation is very important, and I really liked what you guys were trying to do, and I saw what you're trying to do. But when people then say like, I saw the solutions that you're trying to bring to the table, because at the end of the day, what we need to ask ourselves is like, how do we move from that part, and how do we hold people accountable? Because I really feel like there are a lot of half truths, and there's a lot of it's always used to weaponize somehow. You know, like it's like how xenophobia issue comes up when it's time for elections in SA. So how do we then say, okay, listen, this happened, and everyone who was responsible should be held accountable. And how do we move from that to the point where everyone can be held accountable and say, okay, listen, you played this part, you played this part, you played this part, you played this part. Because at the end of the day, right, like one thing I really, it's like I'll tell you my lived experience, right? My lived experience is that I had friends who were all Ndebele, right? Like most of my friends were Ndebele, right? As actually a stone the Highlanders fan, then Zenzo Moyo, the Zemura's era and whatever, right? Nabo Kiflong and everything, right? But it's weird that I still have, like, the funny thing, right, the majority of my friends right now are actually in Ndebele, right? It's weird that you then go APF and then you're part of the culture and you grew up around these people. This is all you know, actually. And bawutshela ukuthi ulishona, right? And you're like, okay, cool, yes, I am Shona. But still, the way that it's being said is derogatory, right? And then you interact with these kids, and in the morning when you're at school, when they're marking the register, and then they say Alexander Gusha, right? And then everyone is looking at you weird, and it's like, and so it's always confusing. And then you come to Harare, where there are people who are meant to be your people, right? And then because your Wednesdays sound different, and your 17s and
17
and
instead
your
of
17 sound
17.
different,
Yeah.
and then they're also looking at you like Ndebele.
Yeah,
And
but
then it's like, walk to Zimdere because of the way you enunciate. So how do we then move from that, and how do we achieve unity in this country?
let's start from the me and you perspective, at that cellular level. I would say it's learning to not invalidate the next person and their lived experience. And what I mean by that is, ulishona, so what? Right? Is what we are discussing. Is the intellect or the idea that we're trying to explore based on your tribe, or is it based on the superiority of what we're trying to achieve? Right? And if I then say to you, no, Alex, I'm quite hurt or disturbed by what you said, right? You can apologize and say, I didn't mean it that way, I wasn't coming at you that way, but I understand what it is. That's an apology. Not, yeah, mandebele, I'm not dipisa, or gamashona la hlupa, or whatever. You know what they say? It's unfortunate because I know that there's a lot of derogatory statements that in the Ndebele culture, or yeah, it's not even the culture. It is culture, I guess, where people use certain statements about Shona people that I can't even repeat, like, right now. And it's not something that you want to perpetuate. I have children that are born of a Ndebele mom and a Shona dad, right? I make jokes about, my Shona mi. You know what I mean? Then I Shona, she'll never get it. But that's just about it. Do I mean to be offensive when I say that? Half the time, no. But it's because there was a certain culture when we were growing up about a perception about Amashon, right? So how do we then bring that up to a national level when you want to say, do we bring healing? Do I think that the discussion continuously about Kukuraundi is going to bring healing? No. We need to learn to just validate each other where we are at, right? There's most of us, or most of the people that were even in that political equation, are no longer alive. They're no longer alive to even be held accountable. And even if we tried, what are we exactly asking them? Why were you guys doing that?
Now that you mentioned that, right? I saw this young kid. Ainza Nufana, the last kid who got.
Yes.
Do you think that kid paying for what okay, for starters, so that which is clear. I don't agree and I don't condone and support what he said. But do you think that kid was paying for what he particularly said at that time, or was paying for years and years and years and years of stuff that just he was at the right time?
He was being held accountable for what he said because he was invalidating someone else's lived experience in a space or in a world or in a country where constitutionally you're not supposed to do that. He violated somebody.
So he was the first.
He's
guy
the first example to be held accountable legally.
in 44 years.
Illegally, yes. But don't say in 44 years because the constitution that we're using is the 2013 constitution.
But still, I'm saying, so you're telling me it's been peace.
I'm just saying that in the 44 years, it's not been peace, because let's use the example where you said that, when I was leaving, I'll be reminded that I'm Shona. There was some sort of social justice in a world where people invalidated certain people. Think of a Dynamos Highlanders game, right? The supporters didn't just trigger themselves because, Highlanders lost or something. There's someone who said, yeah, Mandela lose, and I see whatever. And then they spoke out of turn. Then another person who was triggered by that statement then had their moment. We jokingly call it a nigger moment, when everybody loses their mind about something that wasn't supposed to get there. And then it becomes a physical fight, right? Two people trigger each other, and then all of a sudden it's a war and fist bumps and whatever's because Ishona leli Ndebele leli, you know, that kind of thing.
What
But
is
it didn't need to get there. It
What
didn't
is-
need to get there.
What has been the most fascinating thing about the Shona culture now that you like married to a Karanga guy in Mofela? Like what's some of the most fascinating cultural experience that you've had in this side of
The multiple greeting, for one. Like, you know how you get to a place, then you say, oh, hello, Magadi, Magadi. Then you sit down. And then in a room full of people, you greet every one person like, Magadi Mbuya, Magadi Sekuru, Magadi Mama, Magadi Mainini,
Oh,
Magadi
Nafuma
Bamkuru.
Shanye
And then you properly
times.
greet everyone, right? And then the youngest in the room also has to do that, like until you've properly done that.
Oh,
right?
yeah,
I
like-
found it very weird
I
because
found-
we've already said hi when we saw each other.
I actually found like when I moved this side, I found the whole small talk and you like an intro or forthcoming attraction and you talk, and then when you settle down and then you like and then you now go back to serious and be like, yo, we already have one.
So that was the first fascinating thing. But the second fascinating thing was the use of totems and how it brings pride and joy into the people and how it connects them. So Musha, it's like it's a thing. Anamseamwa, Anamofu, Anachiera. They all call each other by that. Like it's it's actually a thing. It's not even like, oh, ndingoti ndirichiera because ndirichiera and ngumzilankata because ngumanxube ngumzilankata. No, like you get to the homestead and you know, my mother-in-law is a masbanda, right? Everyone recognizes her as masbanda, and if you're not calling a gogo, masbanda, this, you know, shumba, this is, and there's this pride and joy and celebration in that totem space. I've also seen it in the Zulu culture. I don't know how far it would have penetrated into the Ndebele culture that I know from Zim, right? But the Zulu people also genuinely like hold on to that kind of praise. And I've seen that it brings so much pride and validation into even an individual about who they are, who their ancestors, or what struggles and victories their ancestors had for them to be here and why they need to celebrate that and be validating to themselves.
I like how you mentioned the Chiras and the Masvandas and you know like you're a fairly young woman and you know there's this whole narrative that people say but you know women are oppressed and whatever. Would you honestly say that in the African context, knowing the intricacies of how our culture and tradition goes and how decision making is really centered that
Around men.
no around women make most decisions in our households
Yeah.
and would you really do you think that there are valid arguments when the modern day feminist movement comes into play and says no we are oppressed and does it really reflect on what African culture tries to put across?
So maybe first, because I'm a feminist, the feminist movement is not saying we are oppressed. The feminist movement is for equality, and equality in a very directed sense. Like nobody said we're women and we want to be men. That's what makes us equal. When we're in a workplace, Alex, I'm not your my guru. I'm Nomaliso and I'm at work, right? And if you are my boss, you're my boss. I'm married to a husband at home and I will culturally deal with that at home. But at work, if you and I are working the same job, you and I need to be paid the same. That was not happening. That's what the feminist movement was going for. The stop having jobs that I said, no, this is for women. Gender roles exist for efficiency. But if I have to step in and be in a mine and dig, if I have the strength and the efficacy to do that, I need to be allowed to do that and be treated equally.
Right.
And I don't want anybody then mentioning my boobs under the mine shaft when we're all digging for gold.
No,
It's unnecessary.
No. I totally agree and accept what you're saying, right? And you know, like one thing we actually noticed when, like, we were a very predominantly male-dominated organization, right? And then we then thought, no, you know what? As part of the United Nations compliance, we had to
Need a quota.
incorporate and whatever. We had to incorporate a lot of women, right? And then one of the main problems that we faced was that my emotional regulators ukuthi and I'm not saying like when I'm not telling you to do this or not to do this or because I am trying to get under your skirt. I'm telling you because the equality you're talking about. But now you tend to have then someone tend to then bring that emotion into play. Like
It's
I don't know
because of
if you understand what I'm saying, right? It's
I'll
like
blame it
say
on the culture.
fresh in a box, right?
Yeah. I'll
Where
blame it on the culture of the company.
no. What I'm saying is this, right? Where I can say yo, Noma, look, this is not up to standard of what we're doing at fresh in a box here, right? When you start getting in your field, but
No,
now
but that's what,
but you
no, but that's
understand
what I'm saying. It's more now that boils down to the character of the person, right?
Alright.
So I can't believe I'm even using this statement. It's not all women that are in their feels about everything, right? And it's not every human being that's in their feels about everything, right? Something is happening in that person's life.
Alright.
Right. So the way you say it sometimes, I've been told that my tone when I speak is very rough or it's not refined, right? But all I'm communicating is an instruction, and my agenda is to make sure that you understood what I'm saying, right? Whether I'm talking to you as my friend or I'm talking to you as an employee or I'm talking to my employer, right? If I am communicating, I'm just trying to put a point across. I'm not trying to be speaking about whatever it is that was happening at your house. But I also then learned that in a morning meeting with the team, just an easy check-in, how's everybody doing? Because sometimes it's not a good day for you, it's not a good day for me. And that's got nothing to do with you being a man or me being a woman. It's just not a good day. And you need that tenderness, generally, And if you're aware and you say, no, I wasn't saying tenderness as in being touched. Tenderness even in tone.
Alright,
Because I'm saying, today, Alex, I'm not feeling my best, or something happened and I'm feeling very
I'm going
soft.
through a heartbreak,
Yeah,
so guys,
whatever it is, don't even go to the heartbreak. I'm going through it because I'm financially stretched and I'm waiting for the 25th or the 26th to get paid, and I don't even know what I'm eating tonight.
Alright.
It's stressing me. So during the day, please be mindful how you speak of me. Then you walk in and be like, konoma, wazoita dating, whatever, and then you're like, but sha unjairira. Like,
I totally which one
you know what I mean?
Which one is
so let's be aware. So I said I was going to blame it on the culture of the companies, because if the culture of the company is that people are unaware of other people's state of mind, you are going to definitely struggle with how people respond, right? And then there are reasons why people become emotional about certain things. Do I love my job? Am I being passionate about my job? And then am I being invalidated in the process, right? I will give you an example. Like I said, I am brash in my tone when I speak. There was a time I was working for a certain organization, and one of my teammates, someone who was reporting directly to me, because of the brash nature that I speak in, or sometimes I'm like, yeah, what the hell, guys, right? Why didn't this happen? Or why has the fuck this happened, right? Is because I gave the instruction the first time, right? And I asked to say, did you understand what I said? And they say yes. And because I'm that thorough about what I need, I say, just to make sure, can you repeat what I said to you so that I make sure that you understood what I'm saying? They repeat it back to me and say, okay, I understood. This is the instruction I'm executing. When I come back and something hasn't been executed, and I'm like, what the hell? Why hasn't this happened or whatever? That person felt some type of way about the word or the use of the word hell, right? It gave them shivers or whatever. It triggered something, right? And I can't run away from the fact that what I said triggered them, but what I needed done, I still needed done, right? So it's now a 2-layer conversation already. Can we discuss how you lashed out? I'm sorry that I lashed out. I lashed out because we have a sequence of events that has happened. And in the sequence of events, you haven't shown up to an agreement that we had. Right? So I'm also emotionally triggered because I depend on you acting on what we've spoken about for you to do what needs to be done. Right? So now, do you want to take a chance to also be accountable for your part in this whole, before it becomes a nigger moment?
I totally get you.
I don't jairira. You know what I mean?
I totally get what you mean, what you're saying there. What's the worst name that you've been called? Like Gules or Empress? Which one do you find more irritating?
I don't find any of them irritating. I find bossy irritating or bitchy irritating.
Wow. interested. Hey,
I've been called those things, right? And you feel that I'm being bossy because I'm clearly expressing myself about something that we are agreed on or what we are here to do, jobby job, right? KPIs are very clear. Why are we even? You know what I mean?
I totally get you. And speaking of that, right? Speaking of like company cultures, tradition, and everything else, I've been waiting to actually even ask you this question for the longest because when I see those tweets, I'm like, I really wonder where your brain is when we introduced the Mastupet and the Kwachustan society. Because I like when I drive around and look around Harare, right? I wonder what our council's like priority is because they're not prioritizing traffic lights, they're not prioritizing water, they're not prioritizing our drainage system, but I'm sure they're prioritizing
Other things.
chasing people on the street and getting kickbacks and clapping people's cars. So the like one of the thing because I remember I'm sure we've at a certain point we've stayed in the same area, and one of the things that like affects me and that makes me wonder every single day is I wake up in the morning and the first thing it's like Russian roulette. I wake up every single morning and the first thing is am I gonna completely bath or I'm gonna do a passport size photo today because I might not have water and is the garbage gonna be collected? It's a small little things that that I'm paying for and that are supposed to be in order that are not in order. So I want to ask you, how are you being affected by? I mean, you got kids. I mean, you got young kids. You need water. You need you need you need your garbage to be taken away. You need like your traffic lights to be working. You just need a system to be working. How are you directly affected by how the city is being run?
I think it's a chicken and egg situation for me. Let's be honest. When last did you actually pay your council bill?
I
Or
last
when last did your landlord actually pay the council bill after you paid them the rentals?
I think it was last paid when we figured out that they were you would swipe and then the money was going into someone's personal POS machine. But people try to pay their rates. When they threatened to repossess houses, I think people paid the
Yeah, but do you get it? Like
yeah.
it has to be a fight about rates. I'll give you the culture of England or America. You're even taught about paying your rates in school,
All right.
right? You are taught how to do your taxes in school. It shouldn't be a thing. Like, so there's that element of things of a personal responsibility that my mother-in-law paints her house every 2 years,
Yeah.
cuts her hedge outside. Her neighbor doesn't do that, right? But it's because she even mentions it in a very joking manner. Madeza Smithka, time bozvita. There was certain level of responsibility from an individual about how they wanted their community to be run or how they agreed as residents that this is how we live. This is how we will live. And then the existence of a council was to ensure or enforce certain bylaws that were agreeable by already people that had put in together to say, this is what we do. Again, let's go back to Ekwabalanda, where we both grew up, right? There was no rule that said every morning the women will come out with them chairo and chaira their yard. But everybody did that.
True.
Around their yard, in front of their yard, to make sure that it was clean, right? You would even be embarrassed yourself if you went and lived amongst those people and you were not sweeping around your yard, right? Because it was an unspoken but spoken cultural rule that we do this as a people. That's why you would walk through a street, whether Uma 41 or wherever, and you'd see, no, you know what, these houses are tidy.
All right.
And then those houses were not, it wasn't because of anything, but that the people had agreed this is how we live, right? So even the city council, when they were coming to enforce, okay, the drainage is clean or whatever, is because the people also took care of that space. Is there any reason why right now when you walk around Harare, there is trash everywhere? Is it because there are no bins?
Partly could be the reason, but I think it's a
No,
just
it's not that.
it's a human
Because
thing,
the Koreans don't even need bins around their cities. They carry it, if they eat something and they don't find a rubbish bin, they carry it until the next point where they see a bin. They don't, it doesn't suddenly feel heavy to just throw onto the floor. So there's that. But let's talk about the city. There's so many things that are broken in our
traffic lights. Like
in our daily living, and then also administratively, right? Property owners of Harare specifically have, if I say have not stepped up, I'm lying. But then most of them have not stood up to become councillors of the city.
But we had people who stepped up, and you know what
I know.
happened.
That's why I said I don't want to say they didn't step up. But then there is a need for councillors to be actual property owners, because they would understand, right, why they are making certain rules. Because remember, they are coming from the group that has already agreed communally that this is what we're doing. So when they're bringing in certain bylaws and policies for council, it's from the understanding of what the community has agreed on, right? And the community is willing to be accountable for. Therefore, those bylaws can be enforceable, that they're a reality. Then we can collect taxes or we can collect rates and levies because the community agrees, then service delivery happens.
All right.
Right? So there's that chain that goes there. But something is missing administratively. And I don't want to say they're not doing anything. You know, our population has grown in Harare. Like the city was not designed to have as many of us as it has right now.
I know that.
Right? And we've never built anything to accommodate that growing population.
True.
Right? I don't know if I've heard a councillor or a mayor communicate what the futuristic plan of an exponentially growing population is. Because we haven't stopped giving birth. I just gave birth to 2. There's somebody else giving birth today. There's definitely there's some activity happening of more humans coming.
Just came from...
What's the plan? What's the plan about how we are going to accommodate the growth of more human beings in this city? Right? And because there's no plan, there's no implementation. And the weakness as a community or as a country that we have is that we like to maintain what was. And sometimes we don't even know why it was.
Oh, no, I understand what you're saying, right? But like, you know, as I move around Harare, and I've been thinking about this, like even when I'm trying to get to work, the traffic and whatever, right? There are things that I feel like are not rocket science and they're not as complicated as, like, okay, I'll give you a simple example, right? We have a traffic crisis in Harare. Like there's a lot of
more
cars, right?
than road space.
But if you put if you zoom into the situation, right, you realize that traffic lights for just saying with yo guys, let's just fix the traffic lights. It can just help control traffic. I mean, it's not. I don't think you need.
I don't think it's a traffic. I don't think it's a traffic like situation. Take for instance, London has got a congestion charge.
All right.
It makes people avoid going to, like, really and truly, Alex. When I'm not trying to go to town, Pachokwadi. Because you don't want to actually buy from Spa Melbourne or OK Melbourne because for whatever reason you're thinking, but there's actually like those services.
My address.
No, sorry, that's where we both stay, right? But there are shops close to everywhere. There was that decentralization plan, and not in the other broader decentralization. But there is, you know, even Ekwabalanda where we grew up, there was always a Makrosago.
There was Maplanka.
Then from Maplanka, there was always. Yeah, so you were in the upper Kwabaland. I was close to Emmanuel, right?
I've always been living soft, but anyway. Continue.
But I'm just so there was always shops. From Maplanka, it would be about 2 or so kilometers. Then there's the J Timbers. Then another 2 kilometers. Then there's, you know what I mean? There was placements and there was commerce around that area that really and truly to go to town was not necessary unless if you needed to go there and work there.
Do you feel like we need to start like, you know how, do you think we need to, on the traffic side, do you think we need to start having tolls that can actually tax people to discourage people from actually driving
to decongest?
Or do you think that we need to have a more efficiently working transport system? Because, like, honestly, I don't think if it's expensive to get into town with your own car and there's a working transport system, does that like really is that
Again, chicken and egg, or they go together. It's the same family, right? So to encourage decongestion, you also need efficient transportation system, right? I would not want to be driving if the transportation system in Zimbabwe worked fine. Really and truly, right? In the world of ride sharing, my experience of having lived in South Africa for a bit is that I genuinely don't need a car. I actually need a car more when I'm in Zimbabwe than when I'm in South Africa, because the use of Uber exists. I can utilize my time instead of being behind the wheel doing other things whilst somebody else drives. And you pay for that service, right? It's as simple as that. There's absolutely no reason why we are congesting certain places and areas. But there's also, again, a need for a plan. As the population grows, the needs of a population are very simple and clear. Where do they get food? Where do they get health? Where do they get, the Maslow's hierarchy of needs at the base of the frame? How do we address people's needs, right? And you make sure that it's there, and you make sure that even the service providers provide a quality service. Whether it's government or it's private sector, it's neither here nor there, but make sure that that service is quality. There's absolutely no reason why somebody in Borodale needs to go to town except if they are working in town, because there's something there. There's no reason why somebody in Melbourne, there's no reason why anybody in Zimre Park needs to be going into Harare, because Zimra Park has actually developed a lot of the services that they need there.
I totally get you. So what's the way forward? Is this system gonna, because it's getting packed. I think the last time I checked we were 2 million, right? Maybe it's about 2.1 or 2.3 or 4 million now. We're now like imagine 4 million people for a water system that was designed for what, 500,000 people.
So, I mean, let's talk about the plan. I really feel like in Zimbabwe, we have the wrong conversations at times. And I say wrong humbly so because I lack a better word. We need to have more of these conversations on how we involve ourselves as a people. But also there's a cartelling culture that we have as Zimbabweans or as a people, right?
Quite you started what?
Yeah, well, that's Kuda's terminology and choice of words to trigger conversations about certain things. Is there a reason why Mbare is in the state that it is as a food market or as a place of commerce? Is there? No. How many people that have been exposed do you think have gone to council with proposal of how to revolutionize and change the way Mbare is and make an enterprise solution for that? So many of those people, right? Why has it never been implemented? Is because there's somebody in a certain place whose life will be dramatically changed, even financially, should that system shift.
Go deeper, my info.
I'm
I'm agreeing with you
because
it's like even with the transport system as well.
Change will take away some sort of financial benefit or it will take away food from somebody else. So there will always be somebody who stifles or stops certain types of progress because their livelihood is threatened. So the conversations that we must be having, or the plan, the bigger plan, as we prepare for a growing population and as a council and as a community members that feed into the council, right? What can we agree on? And when we take or when we threaten to take, or with this new plan, where does Alex get his bread from so that Alex does not impede on that progress? Because you have to plan for Alex. You have to plan for Nomaliso. And the moment you propose a plan that is inclusive and it's well thought out, people don't fight progress when it doesn't threaten their livelihoods. I don't think our government, our councils have had those conversations from that standpoint. I think there's a lot that they're doing. There's a lot that they're trying to do. And sometimes when they face the resistance, they stop. But the resistance exists because it was not a holistically planned thing, right? There's absolutely no reason why I should drive in town and park inappropriately and be mad that I've been clamped. But there's absolutely no reason why city parking, when their system does not work and they want to use certain agents who need to attend to a whole block with at least 20 cars, is not attending to me, but I'm rushing to go somewhere else. They don't have the patience to send me a bill, right? You want to clamp me and then inconvenience me about clamping me when you only have one person attending to 20 people at a specific time who have certain things to do. That system needs to smarten up.
Like, I mean,
you know what I mean?
Back in the day,
if we already have
the
a
coin system, and it was like in skies.
it didn't need a person.
It wasn't. That was
put
way
the
before.
goddamn thing, and it will click, 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 click. And if the person from city council comes back and it's clicked, but then you're also clicked for over a 2-hour period, depending on where you were, right? It could be a place of work, so you could have been in a meeting or whatever. They'll ticket you, but they don't impede the rest of your day to fail to go somewhere. There's no reason why we have a central registry for vehicles and you still don't know how to bill the person that has that vehicle. It's unreasonable in a world where we all have cell phones and our... I don't know if you get what I'm saying. There's enough information to know that Nomaliso drives this specific car, right? And if I give Alex my car, right, I have taken the responsibility and I've also probably ensured that Alex is responsible with my car. And if a bill comes to me and says, whether it's through my EcoCash or my bank or whatever, I don't care. But then if it says, Nomaliso, your car registration letter 4 numbers was at this point on this day and it broke these certain rules, I need to be accountable for that. I can even extend that bill to you if you were the one that was using my vehicle and you were not reasonable. But there's absolutely no reason why it's now a fight about being clamped. There's no reason. Right? But it's a good money collection thing because the rates are not being paid, but councils needs to pay people or needs to pay bills. They need to do certain things. So
how much does council get for
it's now a new hot tax.
How much percentage? Because I know that they don't own the company that does that. It's actually an independent.
City parking. I don't know what that equation was. I just used them as an example. Remember, council is very broad. It's not only just...
No, but city parking is an independent company, right?
Yes, but they got the contract from council. Right? So there's also that disjointness of systems and whatever that needs to be, addressed. So all I'm saying is that there's a lot that's happening. It may be happening at a slow pace because our world is also moving very fast. And no one is taking time to plan.
So city parking gets 90 million revenue in 2 weeks. That's a year ago from ZTN Prime.
90 million what? Bond?
US dollars.
Okay.
Should city parking be getting that 90 million? Yes.
And so
it's an enterprise.
But what are they doing with the 90 million? Because look at it this way, right? If they're getting that kind of money, right, that's enough to even set up the stations that we're talking about, like this whole...
I'm a business person, Alex. I'm not even going to act like I'm mad at city parking. City parking found a problem or whatever the problem that they were trying to solve. I am not clear about that one. But then they get their revenue because they are selling a service. The question becomes, is city parking delivering its service appropriately to the people? And the only people that can hold city parking accountable on behalf of the community is the council and the government, the people that actually allowed them to participate in that industry, right? If Fresh in a Box is going to participate in the industry of food or in the industry of farming, right? The people that are going to hold me accountable that I deliver a proper service, number one, are my customers. But if not my customers, then it's the regulatory bodies that govern around farming, that govern around food security, so that I do not put the community that I want to serve for the purposes of enterprise at risk. There's absolutely no reason why I need to kill my customer if I want to run a business. There's absolutely no reason why city parking is not delivering excellent service. I want them to get more than 90 million if they need to. But they need to deliver a good service at the end of the day. You cannot have angry customers who are the ones that are supposed to be... Don't be punitive. Get the money because you deserve the money. There's reason, if you're going to park in town, to decongest... It's the plan of decongestion in a sense. If you're going into town, prepare to pay for parking. Why are you acting dizzy that you have to pay for parking? Or else, do not go to town.
Or do not drive to town.
Use areas that have free parking.
Right?
Why do people not use the parkade to park and then walk?
So you're even telling me about... you're still explaining to me what some of the solutions that, because you had said we have a tailored way of doing things. So what's the way forward? Because the funny thing, we are the
it's
adults
having
now.
the conversations. It's having the
We
conversations.
are now the adults. Like, remember back in the day, back in the day, we were like,
The
no, the people need to whatever. But now, funny enough, and it's a crazy reality check that we are actually now the adults who actually need to be implementing this change.
But that's what I'm saying. So let's start at a personal level. If I want to go to town because I want to go to, let's see, what service is there that I can't get anywhere else? I want to go to the Zimra office, right? And I know that the Zimra office has no parking area, and the only parking area that exists is a paid parking. I don't know how long I'm going to take in town or with the Zimra office people, but it could be an hour or 2 hours. I will pay for the 2 hours of the parking, right? I'm planned to pay for that 2 hours. If I then finish doing that, so be it, in 15 minutes, so be it. But at least I am planned for that. That's at a personal responsibility level, right? And now that I have planned to pay for my parking, I do not want to be harassed or not be given a service by a council person or city parking agent, because we're using the city parking example. Don't inconvenience me because I want to pay for the service, right? So half the time people that get clamped by city parking is because at the time at which I wanted to make the payment, they were not available for that.
Oh, and I change.
Something like that. Don't make it inconvenient for me to pay for a service. Make it convenient.
And you know, like, speaking of that, that's one thing I've noticed with most of like our revenue collection institutions, like across the board. Like, you know, most of those parastatals. How many times have you gone to trying to pay this on the
System is down.
It's like, for me, it's ridiculous. Like, it's ridiculous that you can go around what was our system and you're like, yo, guys, this is where your bread is buttered. You wake up every morning just to do this, and
so there's a lack of responsibility when it comes to the robustness of the system. Again, planning for an exponentially growing population. If we're going to implement the system of electricity tokenization, right? What are the options, the many options, to make sure that these tokens are delivered to the people? You can't all go to the Zesa place with a 13 million population to buy Magetsi and get a receipt. Let's get more options in, which is where enterprise comes in, right? But don't shut the door when somebody else that has a enterprising solution to help distribute already a service that people need.
interesting. You know, you said something that you said you're a businesswoman, and you said like, let's talk about the startup culture in Zim, and what do we do to actually enhance that startup culture? Because I mean, you've had I don't know, 2-3 startups that are doing pretty well, award-winning, Mrimi Wanasi. How do we enhance the startup culture in this country? Not just a boutique to startup culture.
No, but maybe let's talk about the need between the startups and the SMEs, right? What does the idea at the end of the day for enterprise is to solve a solution or to solve a problem that somebody's willing to pay for that problem to go away. Simple as all that. That's enterprise, right? So whether it's startup in the sense of what startup has been designed to be in the last 20 or so years, right? At the end of the day, if the women want more clothes and are willing to pay for the boutique, is startup yoyo? And if you can solve the problem that I'm having issues and I want to wear what I want to wear, but then I'm struggling to get the clothes.
Yeah.
I'm struggling. If you are a girls collection and you make sure that you solve that problem, I'm here for that. That's a startup, right? But there is a certain startup definition that now exists, even in the whole of Africa, about what technology are you implementing to your business, right? And maybe sometimes most of our problems in Africa don't necessarily need technology. Technology can make it efficient, but it's about how do you deliver that service that's going to make sure that the person's problem is taken away and they will exchange the value of money for that service. That's the baseline of it. So whether I'm a boutique, whether it's a food shop, whether it's fresh in a box doing deliveries through e-commerce, right? Leveraging technology at the end of the day is to make sure that you efficiently deliver the service. But what exactly is the service that we're doing at Fresh in a Box? We're vendors. Tukutengesa madomasi nemakhabheji nemacarrots tikuwaisa mubox tokunzira kudeni kwako, right? Because iwewe hausi kuda sei zvoenda kumbari and kana kuti hausi kuda, oh, you're busy. So to those customers that have actually used our service continuously is because they would rather do something else and pay for the service to make sure that their goods are delivered to their doorstep in a quality and manner that they would have even done themselves. And for whatever time that service spared them and they managed to do, somebody else would take 20 minutes and make $1 million instead of going to the shop. So I will pay Fresh in a Box whatever they need so that I can make my extra $1 million. That's the concept. Startups are there to make sure that certain problems for a certain demographic are solved in exchange for money. But startups are not, this is not the wild, wild west. We have governments, we have supporting institutions, and that ecosystem must be correct. I have no reason why. Okay, I'm going to use the revenue authorities. I have no reason why as a business I shouldn't pay for my office license, right? If I'm going to pay for an office license because I have to pay for an office license, then let me do that. The difference becomes if the regulatory bodies have not updated themselves about the new thing that's happening.
Oh, yeah.
We are so combative instead of understanding. I still don't understand why the concept of cryptocurrency was blocked out of Zimbabwe. It's because somebody didn't want to appraise themselves with how would this benefit broadly the country or the community and the movement of money. And you know what I mean? And because you close out cryptocurrency as just a certain fraction of the broader concept of blockchain, you've already closed out other conversations about how we could be utilizing blockchain to identify Alex from the time that he's born.
Oh, yeah.
There's no reason why a new mom needs to go and queue at Home Affairs to get a birth certificate of a child that's born in a hospital. When you have a coordination of hospitals and stuff like that. There's so many ways we can leverage that blockchain technology. But because the conversation even around cryptocurrency by itself, where they could have regulated it in a way that is incentivizing for enterprise to happen, they banned.
And it makes it even easier to plan. You know what I mean? Like you're born, you've got your number. Yeah.
Shut down a conversation. And I mean, there are many valid reasons why central governments, treasury or whatever would be against crypto. But let's have the conversation because it's a reality. Don't create a black market around it.
Like what you said earlier on, Guti, like at the end of the day, there are people who probably because I mean, like let's just be frank, right? You know someone is born 24 November, they're born there, they've got their number, whatever, right? I mean, you're going to queue and 16 years, I would have ID, because you know that this person
at 16 they are going to need an ID.
They're going to need a passport. So at least let's make it easier and efficient.
Not only that, actually. Let's think about the birth certificate element because maybe you don't have a kid yet, do you? Okay.
I don't know if that
Let me tell you. I just want to tell you the experience of a woman that has a child that has to go through going to just get a birth certificate for this child. And the reason why we want to get them a birth certificate is because in 6 years' time, they need to go to school, right? Yeah. And depending on aspirations, if I want my kids to go to Hellenic, generally at like 2-3 years old, I should be booking desk fee and stuff like that for the time that they are 6, right? And if I have to do that, they need to be registered. So we already know that Danai is going to be in school at a certain time, right? Danai is registered at an institution that is regulated by the Ministry of Education. Right? From the time grade 1. There is many times, 3 times a year, we can verify which institution Danai exists for school. Throughout their whole life until they are 16. Why is there no way to get them given their IDs at their school?
And it's like, And it's actually
They are going to be at school.
and it's
We know which school she's going to. At least 3 times a year, we know which school she's going to. We have their birthdays. We know that today there's this many people that are turning 16, and we like to know where they are. Why are we not facilitating a way for them to get their ID? There's many technological ways to ensure that it's still maintained in the central database system of the Home Affairs Office, whilst it's decentralized.
like what irritates you the most when you go to some of like the institutions where we do things in any matter my fingerprints, like yo rust,
Why?
like that, those ink fingerprints that you then
No, but the ink fingerprints. At the time, we had no better technology, but there's now better
no
technology.
yeah, that's what I'm saying.
You know what I mean? Now you don't have to do the ink fingerprints. I'm most annoyed by inefficiencies of
or like or the whole office 24 and then go to office and then you're like, yo, I just went through 6 offices and this thing could have been done in one office, or two people could have done this. And it's like, so okay,
but there's a reason why it was done like that. It's just that nobody. So Kuda always tells this story, right? Of in an army barrack, right? There was now this duty roster of going to stand around a place, right? And they always used to do that, standing at that place, but they never knew why that duty roster existed. And by the time a new general got into that place and says, okay, why do we even have this duty roster? And why are people still doing the things the same way? Nobody actually, they had to find out that, oh no, when this building was being built, they needed to let the concrete dry.
yeah.
Right?
So
they had to have someone to stand so that no wild animals or whatever people would cross over and then ruin the drying of that, right? Subsequently, a building was then built, whatever. So there was no need for that duty roster. Even the people that are introduced into a company or these institutions that we're discussing don't actually know why they do certain things, but that's how it's done.
we've always done it this way. So tell me, how do we ensure that the next generation is innovative and is responsible? And do you feel like our education system is actually equipping and empowering individuals to actually be like, yo, these people are gonna be like the next Elon Musks and the next Mark Zuckerbergs? And do you feel like our schooling system is able to do that? And how do we even resuscitate? I remember I went to Milton High, right? I remember there was Mr. Boulevard. Like I used to hate like him Tuesdays and whatever, right? But like we turned out not perfect, but we turned out all right. Do you feel like the institutions that are there now are actually upright situations? Like you got places like PE. They were not PE, Milton, and what, they're all government schools, right? Do you feel like our government schools will ever like learning?
Yeah, that's my aspiration.
No. I'm just saying. But like back in the day, someone could go to Townsend, someone could go to Evelyn, and they would actually turn out as a proper human being. Now you really have to.
No, but for instance.
But you understand what I'm saying? Like,
I went FUSI from grade 1 up until grade 5.
As it okay.
Yeah.
Continue.
Okay. So FUSI was a primary school. It's a government primary school, right? And there are many things that depended on the participation of the PTA to ensure the education of a child. If my dad did not participate in PTA, right, so that the school and my parents are responsible for my education, then I probably would have turned out the worst way. So how do we ensure that the education system works for us? Is because if you are going to be a parent, be involved in your children's education, right? Even the new curriculum, the way it's designed to actually involve the parents. And most parents are like, it's not as if you know what I mean? It's as if you must have skolo. But it's designed to make you as a parent participate in the education of your child. But if you want to send kids to be at a daycare center, then you will get the kind of people that just went to be at a daycare center to be made sure that they're still alive up until the end of the day. So you can't even blame government by itself. What is it that the world is consistently changing, and it's changing fast, right? What kind of people do we need for the world that's changing, or do we need for the world right now, right?
True. I always like, I was laughing the other day where Kuda was saying we are still teaching our kids Wheezer, like diagram.
No, yes,
Yeah,
the head,
Wheezer,
head, chest, and thorax.
like
Thorax
a
and
j-
abdomen. What is it called? Of a caterpillar, or is it what is it?
Locust.
Intete. Yes, because I remember drawing that at school. To what end was that going to help me in life? Except that I know that an insect has got a head, a thorax, and an abdomen. I hate insects and I kill them when I see them.
What must be done? You're talking about the PTA, right?
Yeah.
Do we need to rechange the curriculum again? Because
No.
it changed,
I think
right?
I think the curriculum right now is okay. I think we need to have more holistically from our conversation today. If it's something that is to go by the way I feel about council, the way I feel about, let's have more realistic conversations.
Okay.
Right? Let's have more realistic conversations. I don't care whether we're having them on social media or we're having them in these meetings. There's a way that things were done before, that community members would meet about what affects the community and then have resolutions about that and then move it up the ladder to ensure that what it is that we resolved as a people is implemented
I've always
with accountability.
In my
There's now this expectation that, whoever is the Ministry of Education must just be a Ministry of Education and fix the education
That's
system.
what we voted
It's
in
like,
for, whatever.
no, but then like during the voting conversation, was that minister discussing the
These
issues that
that
understood that we fundamentally want?
No, you know, like even just with the previous elections, one thing I've noticed is that like when you then hold people accountable that you actually gave your vote, right? They then, after they are in power, their attitude is changed a bit. They'll be like, they're now talking reckless. Me, I'll always say this.
Because that's our culture as a people.
I'll always
Think about
I'm
Alex.
always like I'm in the constituency in Joanna Mamombe there. Joanna Mamombe, we're talking about climate change and nonsense there, right? And then there's things that are actually happening in my community directly affecting us, and she won't respond even if you try to engage her in the most polite way. Like I remember the other time I actually put out a tweet, and then I put out a tweet to her like, "Yo, A B C D, and what are you guys doing about A B C D?" And then she ignored me. The next morning, she was talking about some other social item that makes a relevance and trendy and part of a conversation. But I'm like, yo, the people that they actually are in this position for are actually me, your constituency. And if we're raising key things, and I'm not trying to single her out, I'm just saying that's just the constituency.
No, let's just use her because she is your MP, right? But also then that's your responsibility. She's in her second term as MP.
No, I've raised
right?
that. I've raised that
No,
question.
I just want to give you. Hold on. I just want to give you an example.
She only spoke once in Parliament, and I'm like,
no, but then again, we've had so many issues now, right? So I just want to address issues because I don't want to address the person.
All right.
Let's talk about why do people change when they are now in power? It's because that's the culture that we have.
The what culture you're talking about?
Sabuku. Anoita chisabuku kana aita sabuku, but kana angariwo mdara wepakona, because our culture says that when you get to a certain place where you're supposed to be more serving than you are rulership, then you act that way. We need to change our culture.
All right.
Yearning, right? Even if you achieve better in your family, you suddenly become an emarindi mkuru, and you also start acting big. Is there a reason why you're doing that? So why are we not expecting that to follow through as we go up into these institutions? Or maybe let's talk about what the institution must do instead of the person, because a person can be given KPIs, can be given job descriptions, can be given all of those things, and they will have to execute. But what does the institution have to do? Or what do we expect of the institution to uphold, right? Values, whatever, those values, let's be clear about them. How do we translate those values from being written placards in the hallway into lived reality?
True.
Right? And then when we do that, we also practice it before we expect it of another person. Right? So let's go back to an MP that comes for your vote. They're quoting your vote. They're doing everything. Do we actually have the real conversation of why we choose certain people to lead our agenda? Because I think Zimbabweans were now expecting a lot out of these people that have their own personal ambitions to be leaders, to give us direction. We no longer know what we want as a people. Because we can't even agree to line yet, no gara about boys. Let's make sure that we have trimmed grass outside. We can't even
Let's
agree on
contribute
that.
and put
Let's
a
contribute
boom
and make
gate
sure
there.
that we have no, what you call it? Atina marara pa road yedu, right? We don't have that, but we want to expect the councillor to think that for everyone and then start enforcing it. And amongst the many people that we have, there's always that one who just doesn't want to follow rules. Then we're mad for being held accountable for breaking the rules. When you're going to start a business, know that you're going to pay taxes.
True.
Right? Don't be mad about being followed up to pay your taxes when you should have been able to declare your taxes. Be righteous to that. And the moment we learn those kind of things, our leaders start to act correct because they have also learned that before they started being in office. They understood the values that we stood for. So they don't act different. But right now our values is that if you are in a position of power, you will influence things by saying yes or no to specific people with you getting a cut to your end.
You know, speaking of this whole election, the elected officials or whatever, I remember us having a conversation. I remember we were on a call before the election, and I was refusing. Remember me, I refused. I was like, Jack, this is not the guy. And then you're like, no, let's give this guy a chance. We were like that now.
Which guy are we referring to? Which guy are we
No,
referring to?
you know the conversation I had with you, and I was like,
Before elections,
and I was like, I don't believe. And you're like, no, but he's the only shorted. Like, I was like, yo, my nigga, this guy is selling dreams. But anyway,
okay, so let me tell you why. I believe that if Zimbabweans experience a change of government to even swing, because I genuinely, in my heart of hearts, even if we put opposition in power, right, I don't think they would act any differently from ZANU-PF because the value system of the people that I was discussing earlier on is the same, right? But we need to condition ourselves as a people that change can happen. It's like a pendulum. It can swing from that way to that way. We need to experience it, right? 1 year it can be a Democrat and 1 year it can be a Republican, but then the fundamentals of what America remains the fundamentals of what America is. That's what the democracy that I guess I was trying to drive it. That the fundamentals of what makes Zimbabwe are always going to be the fundamentals of what makes Zimbabwe. But is Zimbabwe, do I know what it looks like when it's a
democracy?
No. When it's I don't even know. Do you think ZANU-PF is not a democratic party?
Inine, I've got my
right.
I've got my biases and I've got my, so I wouldn't, like, to be very honest with you, right? I wouldn't know because like my ideas when it comes to politics are more of a very hippie idea. Like, me, I'm on the side of the Nkosana Moyos, the Fortune Chassis,
okay.
and
so the reason why I was glitching,
Chapman,
I get it.
My president Manyama, I'm more disruptive when it comes to this. I'm not.
So the reason why I was glitching is that genuinely and truly, we exist in a democracy, and democracy is that every person has the right to vote a certain grouping into a position of government because they love or affiliate with their ideas and stuff like that, right? That does not exempt ZANU-PF. So I guess the change that I wanted was the government of Zimbabwe to be led by someone who's not ZANU-PF to test their merit and to see that can that change actually happen and we still observe what Zimbabweanness is. And I'm making a word here about what makes us Zimbabwe. Because then it will allow us to start to have the conversation about what do we value as a people? What do we want to see as a people? And therefore, how do we make sure that the leaders that we choose in the future or going forward translate the values that we speak of or we live every day into the reality?
That reality of someone coming on oncoming traffic. I really feel like we are really flawed from like what you say, like from a personal perspective.
There's absolutely no reason why someone needs to be driving
on oncoming traffic.
On oncoming traffic. knowing
Like,
very well
you
that
don't
the
save
other
in
people are going to
second.
stop. But why are you actually doing that?
Because someone can just say, I'm not moving, me, I'll chill. I've got the whole day.
No, but why?
Yeah, it's
Why are you defying logic
because you are
or physics?
because kunda munhu wese. Like
So you think that there's many more people that think like that
yeah,
in
they are.
in our country, and the more of those kind of people think like that, the more they vote for a person that thinks like them, and the person that thinks like them acts in the same way, but we still want the progress of
Normal thinking people. Yeah. That's how crazy. Hey, come to think of it, the other time, I used to it used to baffle me that you wake up in the morning, someone says, no, Neko cash, okay, me, I'll give you cash, and you get sold the money from your currency from your own country. Like, I don't know if that makes sense. Like, it's like, imagine having a US dollar in your PayPal or MasterCard, and then someone say, yo, don't worry, I got US dollar cash, I'll sell it to you. And it's an industry that says, it's an industry that has
the money exchange industry.
yeah, it has been growing for the past like 15 or whatever years, right?
No, it's been growing ever since fiat currency in the world.
Right. But I'm saying in Zim, you could be like in our own bird, the whole exchange, black market, whatever, right? It's been a growing industry. And what's your take on that industry? And do you feel what can be done to actually make this whole Zig concept of a gold-backed currency work? Will it work? You are a mathematician.
Okay, no, let's say
Is the
okay,
math
again,
mathing?
many issues that you've raised,
right.
right? So let's just talk about the currency exchange, right? You know, people that say, "Oh no, I do forex trading online."
Oh, yeah.
It's exactly that, right? True. The reason why in Zimbabwe it's now I'm trying to get eco-cash instead of cash is because the banking institutions that are designed to disperse the cash are not doing what they're supposed to be doing. They're not stepping into that space. So the world does not like a vacuum.
Why do you think that is? Why
I don't know. I can't answer the questions of why is FBC or why is Stuart Bank not making sure that we have many places where if I want cash, I can get cash. If I want to deposit money, I can deposit money efficiently. I don't know. All I know is that there's a vacuum, and because of that vacuum, when institutions that are designed to give that service, they've stepped in. There's someone who's now offering that service, and we can't be mad because someone is enterprising because of that. Either you're going to shape up or you're going to get shipped out. Simple. Right? Why does Alex need to remove eco-cash money to get cash? Becomes the question for Alex. It's not the question for the institution. Why do you need cash?
Because I need cash to.
Why do you need cash? Let's not talk about other people.
Why
does Alex every time?
Personally, pane ma small transaction ndechida kupindawo kombi yangu ndopiwawo change yangu.
Right. So now let's talk about the transportation system and it adapting to the new world of digital money. Why can you not pay makombi nechi ne eco cash?
Because anozati kombi painobuda panofanira kusara kamari keparengi.
Yeah, now again, that's a culture. Yeah, there's a taxi association somewhere. There's a hold on. I'm trying to say that yes, there's that, right? The threatening of someone's livelihood that they are doing, not righteously anyway, right? They're not doing it righteously at this point. Let's be fair. If you have to steal from a business, you are a thief, full stop, right? But because these taxis are owned by certain people who have employed drivers and combi conductors, whatever, right? Yes. Actually, can you make sure that you pay your people right? As a business owner, pay people right? So that they don't steal from you. And then talk about how do you make sure that you are delivering an efficient service for Alex so that Alex does not think about where do I get cash to get into a combi. The transportation system must be okay. So there's the taxis themselves. There's a taxi association. And then there's the regulatory body for transportation. And then there's the, you know what I mean? There's a way we can all solve this problem, right? But we don't want to solve it because, again, kuna munhu ari kudya somewhere and ukachinja ichocho usina kana umbompa an alternative way to not threaten their livelihood. You're going to face resistance. I want Zimbabwe to have its local currency. As a business person, it's wise for us to have our own local currency. It makes us be able to compete broadly in the world market, and it makes us deliver services in an affordable way. Using the US dollar or whatever other people's currencies, it works for them in their space, but it makes it expensive for us because it's not our thing. But the fundamentals around our own local currency have to be correct because of where we have been.
Okay.
There was a time when one Zimbabwean dollar was equivalent to £1 and could be traded in the world trading platforms if it needed to be traded. But in Zimbabwe, we used our Zimbabwean dollar, right? Fundamentals changed over time. Whether it was fiscal policy or monetary policy, whatever was changing, the fundamentals made sure we are where we are today, right? There is a distrust in the institutions that govern the money conversation. Let's get that trust back. I think I heard the Deputy Minister of Finance saying, oh no, it's our responsibility to say and do the right thing and then do the right thing consistently. He's correct. The question remains, we have never seen anybody in those institutions doing the right thing and doing the right thing consistently. So until we see that, don't ask us if it's going to work or it's not going to work. Let's see you do the right thing. Let's not hear you say the currency is gold backed, but then your monetary statement that's written down, that is going to be the one that is put into law, is saying maybe. Maybe.
What's worth more, the US dollar or the gold?
No, it's exchange of value and determination of value. What do you mean what's worth more? There's a value in US dollars that speaks to gold.
All right.
Right? There's a value in pounds that speaks to gold, but gold is a commodity. It's a real commodity, right? So there's no what's worth more. If you have what's the kg gold value today? 1 kg of gold is it's 1,000 something. I'm sure, right? And if or 50, I don't know. What is it? It's 50 something thousand. I'm not sure. But whatever that globally, value is, yes, I wanted the global gold price. But whatever that value is to the commodity, is exactly that. Imari sagire chibage, because I'm a farmer, so I'm going to always talk about farming. Sagire chibage from making sure that I had fertilizer, I had irrigation.
Gold is 2,300.
Okay, a kg.
An ounce. What was it?
An ounce. No, okay, let's even say an ounce. So an ounce of gold is 2,300 US dollars today, as you and I are having the conversation. Could be different when it is, right? But the gold is still the gold. The price could change. And what influences the price is demand.
Yeah.
And
just the market and trust, right?
The market is designed by that, right? So is there demand or there is no demand?
Because the funny thing, it's like,
right. So let's not ask each other if ZIG is going to work if the fundamentals are not in place. Do I want it to work? I want it to work. I want us to have a local currency. But wanting it doesn't make it exist. Yeah. I mean, like all manifestation rules also require that the conditions are correct. Even in manifestation, conditions must be correct for that manifestation to happen. So it's not going to be hocus pocus from nowhere.
All right.
Right? And it's not going to be forced down the throats of people that have institutional memory of what has been happening.
You spoke of Africa and you moving around, winning, like I've seen you having speaking engagement all over the world, right? When you look at how the world is moving, would you say that we are moving in the right direction, or is this to move in the opposite direction? Or like, what then, when you go out there to the world, when you come back home, what are some of the few things that you really appreciate? Like, you know what? Things might not be rosy, but yeah, Zim is better than this that I'm seeing here.
It goes back to the value system of the people.
All right.
Right. So I've traveled to Kenya. They are like 10 times more than us, I think, in population size, right? It's hectic. I like the fact that we have yards in Zimbabwe. I like the fact that we can actually apportion each other 2 hectares of land and still live peacefully in our big yards. I appreciate that about Zimbabwe. But Kenya has got its own successes and its own stories and its own, because of their own value system. You know what I mean? So there are many things that a Shona statement, chakafukidza dzimba matenga, right? In every household, there are problems. In every household, there are joys. In every household, there are challenges. And in every household, there are victories. It's the same in the country context. I can't tell you how many problems America has, but it also has its own victories. I can't tell you how many problems China has, but it has its own victories, right? And so when I come back home, I get to consolidate the victories that we have and be more appreciative of them without losing sight of the fact that I'm aspirational for more, because there's no problem with being aspirational for more. There's definitely a way that that we discuss about our aspirations that's so, it's retrogressive than it is progressive in a sense.
Is this on the online space or just in person?
Both. You and I have spoken online as friends, and even when we discuss the politics, like nobody's. It's a lost cause. We discuss it from that perspective, right?
We know. Like at least we've agreed to agree with. No, you know what?
It is what
this is what it is, and this is how we move in.
Until if I resolve to participate in that space, and I don't know how to progressively participate in that space, our discussions continuously are they're defeated. You know what I mean? We speak from a defeated place. We don't speak from a progressive place. I spent some time trying to reflect after the elections of my dislike, would I say, for Chamisa as an individual. Right? And why? Because I never understood, why would people still follow this guy? You know, but that's a personal thing, that I have a dislike for the guy and his leadership style. But why am I expecting so much from him when culturally the grouping and setting of whatever the agenda is for those people is designed that way? The reason why I'm not there is because I fundamentally don't agree with that agenda of the grouping. So I shouldn't be mad about the fact that grouping has got more people agreeing on their grouping design and what they're doing.
That's like, that one is the one we're clipping and we're putting up, that one, that specific one.
Right.
Okay, okay. Was that a right decision he made?
Who?
The guy in the grouping.
Call him out, because I understand. I mean, I'm still mad about ZANU-PF and their design, but it's their grouping and I don't share the value system there. Me, if I share the value system with Chapman and I think, okay.
No, me, it's Nkosana.
No, I'm trying to just pick an example.
If you're listening to this, anytime you need me, I'm there.
No, but I'm trying to pick an example.
Right.
That let's use even Nkosana or...
He's in Zimbe grouping.
No. He did not even give the chance for the change that he wanted, enough time for that chance to brew.
True that.
I say it in the sense of, let's look at the EFF.
Those guys
right?
are pushing it.
They are 10 years into their change agenda, right?
And they're not
even when you speak about it today in their context, right? It's not, if Malema is not president, then the game is done. No, the agenda of the EFF and their grouping is that it's changing from being 10% in parliament to add an extra percent to 11. That's a victory. Whether Malema is president or not. Did we gain more people into our grouping and into our value system? So we have more people in Zimbabwe coming into wanting to be leaders, but don't have the patience to actually grow their idea. They don't even have 90 days to grow a cabbage. What more about your idea?
Like what I like what you mentioned about the AFF, right? Like I even like how it's such a multifaceted organization where you can find a Floyd Shivambu there, and he can stand his own, and he can command respect, and he can go on a media run, and he can really kick butt. And you find Mbuyiseni Ndlozi who can go to a certain constituency and still do the same thing, and it's not
Because the value system is what? The same. It's consistent. They agree on their group setting. Isusu tiri boys rekuita ish. So you are not worried that the other one's going to turn around and speak something else.
And the nigga
Because
gonna
we are clear
because
about what we're doing.
it's always weird that we've got this whole. I don't understand this concept of Munu India Nevanu. Like, I don't understand it. For me,
No,
it's
but that's
baffling.
the reality. That's the reality of politics
Like-
in our world. Populism wins. In the time of Hitler, in the time of JF Kennedy, populism wins. So don't be mad about that. The reason why we like Beyonce or we like whoever is because they are popular, and we like that, right? Where we should be having a problem is if we now want to make Beyonce president when Beyonce doesn't want to be president.
All right.
And why are we making Beyonce president? Right? Does Beyonce understand what presidency actually requires as an institution? Because presidency is not a person.
True.
Presidency
Is
is
it
an
an
institution. So I personally don't know and didn't think by going to the ballot box and voting, I didn't think that an MSM Nangagwa in himself was the kind of person that I wanted in the institution of presidency. I don't think that Nelson Chamisa is the kind of person that I wanted in the institution of presidency. But I then realized that I'm problematic with all of them that are willing to raise their hand to say, I want to be a president, because I'm actually unclear about the institution of presidency that I require or
I
I
had the same
dream
dilemma
for the
in
country.
the ballot box. Like, it's the most craziest thing that you have. Like, the minute you step into that ballot box, right, it starts off easy. Like, kuma councillor, I knew I didn't want Danford because Danford, okay, whatever. I didn't want Danford in my hood because, to be honest, he tries, is cool, but I personally didn't agree with him or something, right? And then
You voted for somebody else.
and then you vote. No, I voted for him. And then
Why?
No,
Because you can disagree, but the value system is the same.
Right, yeah, right. I like he put like he as in the rampa E for effort. I know it's a I is a effort mkomana.
Okay.
And then opened up an MP, right? MP. What about each? They shall go from La Familia. You know what I'm talking about. And then you be like, all right, cool, La Familia. And then when you then hit to that office, and then you then start thinking about your future, and you think about this. It's an overwhelming experience because you know the responsibility of that ballot to say, okay, I'm thinking about my kids' future. I'm thinking about the state of this country. Like, you think there are a lot of like thoughts. Yeah, and I won't vote. And me, I don't vote blindly. At least that's how I look at it. And then you be like, and then you start. You know, I took a good amount of time in the ballot. And
So
then,
you have two bad decisions. Or you have two bad choices.
No, me, I knew who I was voting for.
No, but I'm okay. From what I'm hearing from you, the culture in which we actually treat voting is already problematic.
True.
The
Just
culture
the
in
culture of
itself,
it, yeah.
right? Kuti, the reason why I'm participating in the voting did not actually address what you needed as a person going into the election. So even the options of the people that you want to vote for are like, ish. But I gotta vote because it's my right, it's my this. But then
It wasn't even
fundamentally, you're now talking about, okay, I'm voting for him because of effort. Effort of what? You already you're dealt two bad decisions, but if it were up to you, you wouldn't vote either. And then we start to ask ourselves, why do we have an apathetic youth? Why do we have an apathetic youth is because the fundamentals in which we are to choose the leadership have not been discussed or have not been educated to that youth. And the options that we have, or the people that raise their hands, don't even know about those fundamentals and the value systems that we need from them. So we get any Jack and Jill that thinks, you know what, I'm confident enough to stand here. I'm confident to stand with Alex because Alex got enough juice to convince people, so which means I'm in. But he has his own agenda why he's going there. And that's not his problem because his aspirations are just but his aspirations.
True.
Right? So it's a problem when we still don't don't understand what are the fundamentals of why we choose leadership in our community.
wambozonyaya kuti pane bhazi rakaita accident kana chimanya, like as in, you know, like you know this item vatozoita accident nenge chimanya bhazi rero. It's that kind of scenario where you're in a bus, right? This guy is speeding, like, okay, those, like, you know, those video clips we always see of those zebra, it's called what, you know, she bus no race, zebra keys, right? Zebra keys is speeding, rakazara vanhu bhazi, right? Do you think pakazara ma-adults apa vazi vafana vadiki, and apana munhu who's got the guts to then just say German, ini ndimbomirewo mundisiyewo hangu, right? Kana kuti bhazi rako riri kumanya, say you actually paid for that service.
Okay.
And
so
that's how our politics is like.
No, exactly. I like that example. The bus is a vehicle that is designed to move with speed. It's a machine that, when operated correctly by a person that is qualified to operate it, can even make it move at the speed of 200 kilometers per hour. The reason why the 200 is there on the odometer is because that specific machine can operate at the efficiency of 200.
True.
So don't be mad at the fact that a bus can move with speed, right? Don't be mad that a person that is competent to move a bus with speed can move a bus with speed.
No, I'm
be conscious of the fact that the person that is competent is not only competent to make it reach 200 kilometers per hour. They are competent to navigate the environment for it to move.
True that.
Right?
True that.
So the existence or the happening of an accident is because they then failed to what? To navigate the environment.
True.
But ideally, the reason why the people inside the bus are not complaining because they want the vehicle to operate efficiently to get them to where they want to go with speed. So they are not complaining. We only talk about bus ranga richimanya because an accident has happened.
But
Rikashika, nobody's got a problem. So we are all exactly. So we are all in agreement that we want the bus to move fast so that we get where we're going. But it is unfortunate that the person who was meant to be operating that machinery failed to navigate the environment and then an accident happened. It's unfortunate, but everything that is happening at that point, don't be mad that a bus can move fast. Don't be mad that a competent person is behind the wheel and they have shown that they are competent. Don't be mad that the people that are inside the bus are agreeing with the fact that they want the machinery to move fast. It's unfortunate that they then crashed, but if they arrive safely, great. Keep operating the machinery.
Last question.
Yeah. Hey, we've spoken about a lot. I don't even think I had any of my points wrapped up in a
last question. Years from now, your daughters are going to see this. What word of advice would you want to give to your daughters as they grow up and navigate this crazy world?
As basic as it is, be the change that you want to see. And ambition is not a bad thing. You know what I mean? Ambition is a good thing. Aspirations are a good thing. Aspire for what it is that you want. If you're not going to be able to change the environment, adapt to suit the goals and the aspirations that you have and do exactly that. And if you can't solve a problem to give a service to somebody else and get exchange of value, don't be mad that somebody else is doing differently to you. You go out and find out what it is that you want to do and solve that problem and make that kind of money. Don't be mad that Wignell is making money or how he's making money. Do what Wignell does and get that money. And also, don't then be reluctant to, if somebody is doing something that is fundamentally wrong, let the law take its course. Yeah. I know I used the bag, but let the law take its course. Don't be a lawbreaker, but be mad that others are breaking rules.
All right. Anyway, 3 things you love about Zimbabwe.
The weather. We've got great weather.
The weather is on everyone's list. I was with David the other day and you were saying the weather as well.
It's great weather. Like there are places that are cold, guys. Cold. Like it's unfathomable how you would think with that kind of cold weathers. Then there are places that are hot and dry. And you're like, this is exasperating and it's taking out. Zimbabwe is so beautifully moderate with the weather. The climatic conditions that we live in are amazing. And when we talk about climate change, if there's anything that we can do, is that we must. I heard you say, Joanna always talk about climate change. Climate change does affect a lot of our things. It affects the food in the future for a growing population that we're talking about. So we must be conscious about the decisions that we make so that we don't affect the food that people need to eat in the future. Right. So those conversations at a broader level are important. The responsibility becomes, how do we synthesize those conversations back down? But I love Zimbabwe for the weather. I love Zimbabwe for its not culture, for its social dynamic. There are many things that we disagree on, but for things that we've agreed fundamentally on, we know how to quickly unite. So our problem as Zimbabweans is not uniting.
We've proven that we know how to quickly
we can unite against Gayton Mackenzie and make him a Gweru boy because he's a Gweru boy if we want to. Because at that time, fundamentally, we agreed that we are not going to agree to be disrespected as a people by an individual who wants to be malicious to us. But we haven't mastered
2 or 3 other times we united.
Yes, there's many things. I mean, like, fundamentally, Zimbabweans will agree on a very controversial thing, but they agree that they are not ready to discuss the conversation around the LGBTQ community. They are just not ready. They are not ready.
Hey.
Right? They're not ready to discuss it at the level that that community wants or the community requires us to discuss it at. They're not ready. But they have not taken away their human being, because at the end of the day, I don't care if I meet a gay or a lesbian or whatever person, I treat them with the humanity and the respect and the dignity that they deserve. And it's only when those lived realities start to be disrespected that then the conflict exists. But your orientation is not an issue. So Zimbabweans are not ready to have that discussion, and it should be okay when they are not ready to do that.
Okay,
Zimbabweans will agree on.
I think we found our second clip.
You know what I mean? Like, there's those things, right?
Right.
We will differ in opinion, but then we'll never differ in treating each other with respect. So that respect comes from never taking for granted or invalidating the next person's lived reality, which is what Ubuntu is.
All right.
Right? So, yeah, I love that Zimbabweans can unite. We know that we have the potential to unite. I think that we need to have more conversations about what we are uniting on in a progressive way, not in a regressive way. What's the third thing that I love about Zimbabwe? See, I keep talking about the people because
you're saying what?
And I keep talking about the people because people make a country, not the territory that exists, right? Because you could be living anywhere and
I
still
love
have
the humor that Zimbabweans have. Like the way they can just take a serious matter and really like make it so humorous. I'm like, we have to be up there when it comes to humor.
No, but that's trauma response. But yes, maybe I don't admire that. We're very terrible with that trauma response. Because we're never futuristically thinking, we're just thinking these are jokes. That's why we're in the state that we're in. So no, I don't love that.
You know, sometimes, cause you know why? Sometimes some of the things that we see, right? If you take it seriously, because you'd be like, you're not, like, how many times have you seen real news and you'd be like, no, you're not serious. What? No, you actually did open a bin, but okay, you're saying.
That's the community that we live in. Right?
Cool.
We can't be surprised that a person did something that's weird and we're all like, okay, it's in the news. That's the news is just a reflection of who we are. Plus propaganda in whatever direction you want it to be. Right? So whether it's news on social media or it's news on national TV or news from wherever, it's a reflection of what we are.
You're SDA, right?
I was born Adventist.
Why did you escape?
It was a trauma response. Why did I leave? Why did I stop being Adventist?
Yeah.
It's because the church fundamentally failed me as a child when it came to my parents and their relationship. it played a rather negative role than it did for a positive role of what was happening in our family life and how much we gave into the church, or how much I saw my parents give into the church. They didn't get value in return. And but holistically, my views around religion have changed broadly, not just from being Adventist. I still, there are many things that I love about the fact that I was born Adventist and the Adventism sect as itself. I still love the hymns. I still love the way the Bible is taught. So my primary school, from grade 5 till 7, I learned at an Adventist primary school. My ability to study the Bible and understand the Bible and interpret the Bible is something that's culturally from the Adventist culture of doing things
So
as a religion. When you say ku-ATR andiko, what do you mean? I don't practice.
No, yeah, but I'm just saying, like,
Do I understand what's going on in the
Yeah.
religion sector? Yes.
and you just treat them like how you treat Muslims.
I treat them the way I treat every other religion, with respect, dignity, and understanding that I don't need to invalidate the person that believes in a certain thing. That reality I do not need to disrespect.
Nomaliso Musasiwa, thanks a lot for joining us. It's been a long time coming. 2 years, actually, to be exact. Anyway, guys, if you were pissed off, it's okay. If you were fascinated and if you learned something new, that's okay too. This has been The Bold Exchange.